Hello everyone and welcome to the Marketer Toolbox series. This series aims to equip marketers with strategy to conquer modern day challenges through conversation with industry leaders. Thank you for joining today. We're delighted to have you here. My name is Yawa Degboe and I'm a Demand Generation Director here at Vimeo. Today I will be your host. A modern day marketers face many responsibilities. From achieving short-term ROI to maintaining long-term goal, we need to work quickly and effectively, blend creativity with data-driven strategy. We navigate performance marketing while staying true to our brand identities. And now, with the integration of AI, understanding our audience emotion on a deeper level is a must. In today's first episode titled The Content Conundrum, How to Create Content That Convert, we are honored to be joined by Ross Simmonds, the founder of Foundation Marketing. Ross will share invaluable insight on how marketers can develop a robust content marketing strategy and put into action immediately. We'll cover content marketing strategy tips and the latest repurposing hack in the age of AI, unlocking the power of storytelling through video to build emotional connection with your audience, and finally, key metrics for measuring audience engagement and content performance, along with optimization strategy for better result. But before we dive into our discussion with Ross, we have a Q&A session scheduled later. So please feel free to submit any question you have throughout the session. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the chat by clicking the blue Ask button. Additionally, you can upvote question you like by clicking the like button, helping us prioritize the questions that Ross should answer. Without further ado, let's welcome Ross Simon here. Hi, Ross. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Introduction from you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and
Yeah.
the work that you do at Foundation Marketing?
Definitely. So my name is Ross Simmonds. I'm the founder of Foundation Marketing. We are a B2B content marketing firm that works with some of the most ambitious and successful B2B SaaS companies in the world. Every single day, our team of Foundationites are supporting these brands and creating full suite content marketing engines, helping them with the creation process, the research process, the strategy process, and the optimization process of the content that they have developed. We believe in this idea that content can shape culture and that not even when it comes down to B2B, does content need to be boring? So we believe truly in this idea of telling stories that are worth telling and helping organizations optimize that content for things like search and SEO and using a wide range of different formats to get those stories out there. I'm also the author of a book called Create Once, Distribute Forever. I'm happy to always talk about distribution and how brands can unlock more opportunities on the back of stories that they've told once before.
Thank you so much for sharing about you, Ross. So we're going to dive into the first part of this interview style webinar and really talk about like content strategy in the age of AI.
Yeah.
First of all, let's start from scratch. What is your definition of a solid content marketing strategy?
Yeah. So I love that we start here because it's the foundation of any great marketing plan. Whether you are an enterprise level organization or you are an up and coming organization, small business, you need to think about a holistic approach to your marketing efforts, especially when you're thinking about content. So a lot of organizations just think content strategy is writing blog posts, that if you have a content calendar, you have a strategy. But in reality, you need to root that content calendar in research. What type of research? You can do research such as keyword research, where you're understanding the phrases that your audience is typing into Google to make a decision across their buyer's journey, whether that's at the top of funnel and they're typing in what is type of queries, or it's the bottom of funnel where they're typing in questions where they're comparing two brands against one another. But it doesn't end there. A lot of SEO agencies would say that's the start and end of that research. But in reality, if you think holistically and understand that the B2B buyer, the average buyer that you would try to sell to, has a lot of different touch points and a lot of different influences, you might realize that they're also on social media, kind of like this idea that a human is like an onion where we have a bunch of layers. So yes, they will do some search on Google, but they'll also do some searches by trying to dive into video content to inform them. They'll try to dive into social media content. So we want to do social research. We want to do audience research to understand what newsletters they're subscribed to, what podcasts are they listening to. We do all of this research up front to essentially set the foundation for what we would recommend we execute. And that is the next part of the equation, figuring out what things you need to create. What are the topics that you should cover in your videos? What stories should you create with your white papers, your lead magnets, your assets, your landing pages? What are the webinars that you should be amplifying? And that becomes the next step in creating this strategy, really thinking through how you can distribute them effectively, how you can get that message out there, and how you can get the story out there around your product through distribution. And then once the distribution piece is taken care of, the last step is optimization. You don't want to just create things for the sake of creating them. You want to optimize them as well. So the foundation of a holistic content strategy is essentially rooted in those four ideas: research, creation, distribution, and optimization. And if you can do that, you'll have a solid strategy.
Wow, that's a lot. You're sharing a lot of information here. But let's say, so now that this is established, so we know what a solid content strategy is all about.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how you're building an ideal customer profile and how do you create yours at Foundation Marketing?
Yeah, so it's right here when you look at this slide. I love this example because the way that we view it is finding and going on a quest around this idea of content market fit. So when you're thinking about your ideal customer and you've done the research to understand the things that they care about, you go through a process where you're starting to look at things like channel user fit. So where are the people that we want to connect with spending time? Right. And for Foundation, the way that we did this was simple. We started by understanding, okay, our ideal customer are B2B marketers. They're people who are supporting SaaS companies in driving growth, helping B2B brands drive growth. Where are they spending time online? And when we understood that, we had to start with a little bit of internal research too, to identify and look at who are our best clients. Which clients do we get the most joy out of? Which clients do we get the most ROI out of? Which clients do we help get the most ROI out of their initiatives? And then from that insight, we're able to identify who our ideal customer profile is. And then we go through this type of an exercise as well.
Oh, thank you. So let me recap 1 second. So here, what you're saying, you're building the ideal customer profile, and you gave us an example of how you do it at Foundation Marketing.
Yeah.
So now in marketing, we create a content strategy out of an ideal customer profile. Would you recommend a different approach to building the content strategy?
Yeah. So when you've identified your ideal customer profile, you now know exactly who you want to reach. Now, the next part of the equation, and it's also a part of your strategy, is figuring out how you reach and influence those people. So through this methodology, the framework around research, rethink, and remix, you're starting to understand a few key things. Under channel user fit, you're identifying the channels where your ideal customer profile are spending time. And you want to study this. You want to spend a lot of time looking at what are the types of content that they're consuming on these channels. What are they liking? What are they engaging with? What are they sharing? How much time are they spending there? And how many of them are there in general? And then after that, you're going to start to use the rethink process, which is looking for content user fit. So what is the actual stories and the messages on these channels that these people care about? That they always start up a dialogue where they're always sharing, they're always bookmarking, they care a lot about. Once you have those two insights, you now have the ability to look at content market fit. And content market fit is what you were talking about here around the content strategy. Now you've uncovered everything you need to know about your ICP. Now it's time to give them the content and the stories that they want on the channels where they're spending time. And if you can do that consistently, you're not only going to build brand love with your audience, but you're also going to establish a connection that is going to last longer than just a flighting tweet or a post on social that is here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. I love that. So as a marketer, I'm a marketer here at Vimeo. My mind always goes to what is next all the time. And what action I want the reader to take next. So how do you build a content strategies that touch an audience at different point in their journey? How do you do that?
Yeah, so we love to think about exactly what you just said, the journey, right? So in that journey, there's different things that you're going to do at different points. In the bottom of the funnel, when you are already very close to making a decision, you want to embrace an idea where the conversion point or the thing that you want them to do next is closer to the business goal. It could be signing up for a demo. It could be scheduling a demo. It could be requesting a demo. It could be something of that nature. In the middle of the funnel, that request might be something like, I want you to download a case study. I want you to download a resource that's going to be a one-pager on this new feature that we launched. And at the top of the funnel, it might be just signing up for our newsletter. So as a marketer, and I think you'll get this because you're in the wonderful world of demand gen, you need to really understand that demand is a spectrum. There is very little demand when somebody is just going to Google and they're typing in, what is the best podcast that marketers should listen to? Now, you might have written a piece on that because you want to attract marketers, but it's likely that nobody who visits that piece is going to convert into a marketing software. But if you can get them to download your newsletter and you can start to build up touch points, then you can move them through that demand funnel and increase the spectrum and the likelihood that they're more likely to convert at the bottom of the funnel as well.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I like that. And one thing that I hear from you too is like you often talk about repurposing content.
Right.
This is great on paper. It's great. Like, yes, marketer, we should repurpose content all the time,
Right.
but how does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the vast majority of marketers embrace a model like this, where they prepare content in advance. It could be a white paper, it could be an ebook, and then they launch that content. They send out a post on LinkedIn and they hope that people are going to engage with it, and they let it die. That's essentially the end of it. You fast forward a few months and they're not promoting that piece anymore. They're not sharing that piece anymore. And then they look back and they're like, oh, we should probably do something with that. And then they do it. But here's what they should do. Let me show you the next slide. This is the model that more brands need to embrace, where you prepare in advance and you think proactively about the assets that are going to make up your content calendar. If you know that every year you're going to publish 12 thought leadership pieces, then every single one of those thought leadership pieces need to be launched, not just on your own channels, but on secondary channels as well. What does that mean? It means you're going to leverage newsletters. You're going to leverage some other third parties who might be partners who you might have mentioned in the article to amplify it. Maybe you're tapping into influencers. You're going to find ways to distribute that piece. Now, again, what's different about this in the traditional approach is you're being proactive. So you now want to maintain momentum. This is not a let's press publish on a piece once and call it quits. You want to maintain the momentum on the thing that you've invested in. And the way that you do that is you start to think of things like paid media. Can we support this asset with paid media? Can we support this asset by distributing it inside of niche communities? Is there a newsletter? Is there a Slack channel where our audience is spending time every day that we can sponsor and have it seeded into? Or can we have our community managers be active in these places where they can seed it themselves? Then you can start to talk about repurposing. So this is a thought leadership piece that might have charts and graphics and visuals in it. Can we take those charts and visuals and turn them into a carousel that lives on LinkedIn? Can we turn them into graphics that we then share on LinkedIn or X or just static images? Or maybe we start to embrace some of Vimeo's great tools around video, and we can start to talk through the thought leadership assets and actually describe what went into them. You can use the script writing tool directly in Vimeo to do something like, okay, I'm going to take a screenshot from this thought leadership piece, talk into the camera, have the script on the screen, makes it easy for me to talk about this thing, and then use that to develop more assets. So you can start to do that type of thing. And then once it's done, the beauty is you can start to reshare it. So one asset, one thought leadership piece ultimately turns into 40 different assets, 50 different posts, goes into 20 different communities, all because instead of just thinking that this is a one-time launch, it became something that you repurpose and you repackage time and time again. Now, the question is, how do you do it? You have to invest the resources to do it. You have to invest resources, whether it's time or money, into a partner, having a partner execute it, or you have a team that's going to execute it in-house to support you in making this come to life. But one of the most beautiful things about the world today is AI is making a lot of the things that I just described a lot easier. So it's more efficient, it's more effective than it used to be because AI tools exist.
Yeah, no, this is great. That's lead to my next question. So today, how do you do that with AI? Like, could you please share the latest hack or tips about repurposing content with AI?
Definitely. So when you are leveraging AI to do some of these things, you really want to think holistically around the evolution of content. So at one point, you can take the asset, upload it to a source like ChatGPT, etc., and you can start to have a conversation with ChatGPT to give you advice and ideas on what you should turn it into. So if you need a tweet written, you can ask it, "Hey, can you write the tweet?" If you need a LinkedIn post, you can ask it to write the LinkedIn post. If you need a script, you can go into Vimeo script writing tool and you can give it a rundown, select the tone that you want, and say, "I want to write a script that's promoting this asset that we've created." It will give you that in the matter of seconds, right? And then you can read that script directly on camera. And from that, you can amplify and promote it, right? And then once you have that video asset that you've now created, you can repackage that, you can download it, you can reshare it. And if you're not someone who's great with copy, you can leverage a wide range of different tools to get the copy written for you to support the promotion of that asset, right? So when we think about AI, we think that every marketer should not view AI as necessarily the competitor, but to view it as an augmentation tool to support you across the full process. Whether you're thinking about research, whether you're thinking about brainstorming, creating briefs, drafts, publishing, AI can support you across the full function. And we encourage teams to embrace it as an augmentation tool to help you do more when you couldn't have done these things in the past.
Yeah, AI has an augmentation tool
Yeah.
for the marketer's workflow. So, what are the success and horror stories that you have seen out there when it comes to using AI in your content strategy? Please share a
Yeah,
little.
there's been a few. So one of the most hilarious AI blunders that I have seen is the consistent problem that people will go to AI ChatGPT and they'll ask it to write them a blog post, and then they copy and paste that blog post and they press publish on it. And sometimes you will look through these pieces and it will literally say within them, we aren't able to give you information on this topic because our LLMs weren't trained since 2023 or whatever. And that will show up in the blog post. So it's obvious to me and probably even to Google that this was written by AI. One other thing that I've seen oftentimes with this is I've seen organizations use ChatGPT, use AI tools to pre-plan content. And they don't really oftentimes know that there's a missing layer of human connection that is required to ensure that the content that is going out is connected to the right things. There was a brand, I'm not going to say who scheduled a bunch of content to go out. And they connected every post that they scheduled to holidays. But some holidays, based off of the calendar, aren't always holidays that you should say happy and then the holiday. Some of them are a little bit kind of like a Remembrance Day. You don't say Happy Remembrance Day. You just chill. But these folks had an AI going out and just saying Happy Remembrance Day to everyone. And people are like, what? What are we talking about? Like, that's not what you're supposed to say. So you have to ensure that there's that human quality touch on all of the AI things. Now, there is some great success stories on AI as well, right? I've leveraged AI to translate videos that I've developed into different languages. And that has opened up new opportunity for me to connect with people who I never would have before. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful things about this tech. It is breaking down barriers, it's breaking down borders and giving people the ability to build connection and share ideas with people who they traditionally would have never had the ability to do.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. So, we talk about AI, but let's be honest. If I'm
Yeah.
a marketer and I'm not using AI, what is in it for me?
Yeah. If you're the way that I would view AI, if you're a marketer and you're kind of on the fence, is to really understand that AI provides you with, in many ways, like a not only that augmentation tool, but the ability to do things that humans weren't able to do before. You can use AI to help you brainstorm. You can use AI to solve problems, and you can ask questions. For example, in Google Sheets or a spreadsheet, let's say you're trying to figure out something that's broken in a cell. You can have a conversation with ChatGPT, describe what you are going through and what your problem is, and it will give you the function that needs to go in that cell. And you can have that at your disposal in your pocket. But it doesn't end there. When you think about a lot of the problems and challenges that you might have from a resources lens, you can't engage a scriptwriter now. If you are trying to just make a launch video, you can go again to Vimeo's tool and ask it to write a script for you and then have it on your screen. The time efficiencies that are saved because of AI are fascinating to me. And I think more and more marketers need to realize that you're already busy, but maybe you can free up more time by using AI so you're not as chaotic and stressed out as you typically are.
Yeah, I like that. So AI has an augmentation tool. I will quote you on that.
I
That's a
like it.
good quote to keep it. We are leading to the next part of this interview. And let's be honest, this is Vimeo, as
Yeah.
we talk about video a lot, and that we breathe and live video. So let's
Mm,
talk about like the power of video to really like connect with your audience. So
right.
my first question around that is, marketers often use the same tips and tricks when it comes to content. Like
Yeah.
we kind of recycle the same thing. But
Right.
how does marketer, how could we differentiate our content and make it stand out
Yeah.
in a crowded environment?
Yeah, one of the best things to do today with video content to stand out is to start your story with something that captures attention. So instead of just sitting on camera and talking and saying the same thing, you want to shock people immediately by either saying something, showing something, or hooking people with a captivating intro. Once you've done that, you have to deliver a ridiculous amount of value. And when you add a ridiculous amount of value, you now have an asset that is worth promoting, an asset that is worth distributing, an asset that is worth repackaging and repurposing, right? So you can start to take one single asset and turn it into a blog post, turn it into a LinkedIn video, turn it into a podcast, turn it into a short on YouTube, onto a TikTok. You can turn it into a reel, into tweets. You can turn it into all of these different things. But I encourage people who are looking to stand out to start their videos with something that captures attention and then educate, engage, entertain, or empower. Those are what I call the 4 E's. And if you can do those 4 things with your content, you're going to create a piece of content that is worth sharing, worth bookmarking, worth reading, worth viewing, and ultimately a piece that is worth repurposing and repackaging as well.
Hmm. Um, let's talk about
Yeah,
brand and the tone of voice. Like, how does
right,
it matter? How do how did you own your tone of voice
right.
at foundation marketing?
Yeah, when we first got into marketing, there wasn't a lot of organizations getting excited about B2B marketing. And we came to the market immediately and we said, B2B marketing does not need to be boring. B2B marketing does not need to be boring. And we screamed that, we yelled that, and we believe that still to this day. And the way that we got there was by persistently and consistently, communicating our values and our story and our message around this idea and seeing how the audience would respond. And they responded well. People agreed. People got behind it. So when I talk to brands about what stories they need to hold on to and really focus on, listen to your ICP. Listen to the ways in which they're responding to the stories that you're putting out there and double down on the ones that they care about. And when you see that there's traction with an idea, a story, or a message, then that's a signal from the community saying you might be onto something. And that's exactly the playbook that we did. We listen to the audience, we listen to our customers, and when we notice that there's traction on an idea, we go all in on it. And that ultimately becomes our brand voice.
So what's role does a video play in your content strategy?
All of it. So when you look at this slide, it shows you the importance of consistently creating video content. We create video content all the time, whether it's a short form video or a long form video. We believe that video connects people to people like no other medium online today because it is the closest thing that we have to actual face to face. So when someone connects with you in the flesh, that is the ultimate level of connection. The barriers are down, it's easier to have a discussion, the connection is strong. But with video, you're taking on the same audio experience, you're having a similar visual experience, except it's on pixels. And that connection is built between you and the audience. So for us, we recognize that we're in a niche space with B2B. We recognize that it's not always so fancy. Like we don't have cool cups and cool coffee and nice energy drinks that we're selling. We're selling ideas. And when we're selling these ideas and we're selling people's time and we're selling our ideas and ability to help people, the best way to connect with those people is through video because people connect with people and video is the closest thing that resembles that in-person human experience.
Video connect people. That's another good quote. We'll keep that. Um, if we diving into the next section question here, I'm really curious about like B2C versus B2B. So
Right.
B2C is often looked at the coolest space to be,
Right.
and
Right.
and you talk earlier about like B2B doesn't have to be boring, but when
Right.
it comes to content strategy, what do B2C marketers know that B2B marketers don't? What can we learn from each other?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing right now that B2C marketers get that B2B marketers are way, way behind on is the power of building community with influencers and with creators. A lot of organizations make the mistake in B2B of thinking that their channels are the only channels they can use to promote, to amplify, and to distribute stories. The smart B2B brands are starting to figure it out. They're starting to collaborate with creators who speak to their ICP. They're starting to collaborate with people who are leaders in the niche that they play in. B2C brands have done this for decades, for years, right? Like when you think of some of our favorite brands as children, they were likely connected to celebrities. Now, the internet has made it easier for people to become celebrities. And it turns out in B2B, there are micro celebrities that might not get a bunch of fame when they walk down the street, but when they show up at an event, there's a lineup of people who want a picture. Okay, what does that mean? It means that these people have influence within your space. And in B2B, a lot of organizations aren't tapping into the full potential of influencer marketing, of partnering with creators and allowing these creators to be a caveat and to be essentially a bridge between them and their ICP.
So thank you for all of that. There's a lot to digest here. We're gonna lead to the last section of this interview.
Great.
But because I want to dig into measurement, it's all
Yes.
about data, right? At the end of the day, it's all about data. So how to measure result and impact?
Yeah.
How do you measure impact of a successful content and repurposing strategy? How do you do that?
It starts by having access to analytics and starts by understanding some of the things that we already talked about earlier. So here in this slide, you can see key metrics. There are different metrics across the board depending on what you're trying to determine. If you're trying to find channel user fit, content user fit, or content market fit, there are different metrics that matter. Search volume, subscribers, comments, links, shares, referral traffic, backlinks, all of these things matter. But it all starts with the organization's goal. If you say that we are implementing this strategy because we want to generate leads, then the metric that is going to matter is how many leads are generated on the back of maybe social referral traffic, on the back of YouTube referral traffic, on the back of paid ad spend, whatever it might be. So you start to do that and you connect it back to the organization's goal. And that is consistent from top of funnel all the way through to bottom of funnel. You always focus on the business's goal and you try to connect your metrics back to that.
So how do you recommend marketer track the performance of their content?
I think the best cadence is weekly. I think you weekly have to be keeping your finger on the pulse and tracking this and monitoring closely what the results are. And some people will get into a tizzy saying, okay, but are these vanity metrics? Does it matter that we're having a high engagement rate? It does matter if brand is important to you. If brand matters and that is the objective of this initiative, then you want to track these things. And within each platform, there's typically a tool, but I would say that you want to incorporate a way to pull all of the data into a central place. There's a bunch of different data aggregation tools that you can use to pull data around the different channels that you're leveraging. Bring them all into one place so the entire team can have a bit of a dashboard that showcases how you're doing and how you're performing at large.
So at Foundation Marketing, how would you measure what's content resonate with your
Yeah.
audience and what's content does not?
We track engagement across the board. So a lot of people will say, what if the algorithm is like lying to you? And what if the algorithm is not seeding your content? We play the algorithms game as well. So what we do is we look at on a regular basis the last 30 posts or over the last 30 days to see which posts generated the most engagement. And then we do an analysis to understand why those pieces generated engagement. Was there something about them that constantly hit the mark? Was it memes? Were they frameworks? Were they guides? Were they how-to posts? Were they instructional? Did they include links or links in the comment? We try to start to debunk and understand these insights, because these insights should inform what you do the month after. So that's the type of thinking that we would apply to any type of metric and measurement, not only for ourselves, but also with clients.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So another question here. One of the debates that we hear a lot about in marketing is conversion versus engagement.
Right.
Is it a non-debate? What is it?
They should be best friends. Conversion and engagement should be besties. They both matter, because if you have a high conversion rate, then ultimately the business is going well and things are generating leads and you're getting the business results and metrics. But if you have high engagement rates, it's also going to make it easier to get those conversion rates, because with a good brand, which comes from great engagement, everything gets easier. Your average cost per click goes down when you have a high quality brand. Your ability to do cold outreach and get a response to your email is less friction oriented if you have a good brand. So engagement and conversion should be both viewed as very positive signals to pursue. And we as marketers need to stop debating whether or not one is more important than the other, and recognize that these are besties that need to collaborate and work together to get the ultimate outcome, which is a strong brand with strong results.
Besties, another quote to keep. Last question, but not least. So, as a marketer, my mind always go to what is next. I mentioned about that, but
Right.
do you believe, like, the way we talk marketing, or the way we thought about marketing, we talk about like the marketing funnel a lot,
Right.
right? Do you believe the marketing funnel is broken?
Right. I think the marketing funnel today is fragmented and, without question, more complex than it ever has been before. And organizations need to recognize that the funnel is not linear. The funnel is not from one point to another point. The funnel has a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different stakeholders. And as such, it's important that organizations and businesses invest in content across multiple assets, whether it's case studies, whether it's one pagers, whether it's blog posts, landing pages, shorts, video content, testimonials, you name it. Because of the process today being so fragmented, brands are being pressured in many ways. And I think it's appropriate to be in more places at more times. So my advice to brands is not to just say, the funnel's broken, I need to get out of this. This doesn't work for us. It's too chaotic. Instead, is to accept and realize that yes, people are going to have content full suite, full funnel, but the fragmentation of it all has never been more greater. Thus, there's more importance around research. There's more importance around creating diverse assets. There's more importance around distributing those assets and repurposing them. And then finally, because things happen in yearly cycles, you need to make sure that after that's done, you're optimizing what you did the year before and you're rinsing and repeating that cycle and continuing to move the needle for the brand.
Thank you very much, Ross. Thank you so much for all the insight, all the information that you have shared, like the framework. There is a lot of information in there, and I feel like we can get started like today. So that's great. We are now going to move to the next part of this interview, which is the Q&A section, and we'll see you in a bit. Thank you very much. Great. We are moving to the Q&A section, and there's a lot of questions that came in right there. I'm going to go through some of them one by one. So the first one that came in, Ross, is how do you recommend finding partnership for content distribution? Let's break it down. Like, let's start with this, and we'll go through the rest of it.
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about the idea of content channel fit. When you're looking for content channel fit, you're essentially looking to understand what channels your audience are spending time on. And when you figure out that they're spending time on a certain channel, there's typically going to be individuals, brands, media companies, things like that that already exist on these channels that are having success in reaching your ICP. So once you've done that research, you want to then essentially reach out to some of the top brands. So let's say, for example, we've done the research and we know that our audience is passionate about newsletters and they subscribe to tons of newsletters to get insights around their industry and their space. You're going to look at the top newsletters within your industry. You're going to do that research. You're going to ask your existing customers who they subscribe to, and then you're going to essentially create a spreadsheet. And in that spreadsheet, you're going to identify the amount of subscribers that every single newsletter has. You're going to get information from them around things like whether or not they offer sponsorship. You're going to get information from them around their engagement rates. And you're going to format all of this so you can get a snapshot of the media landscape as it relates to newsletters. And then you're going to engage, you're going to hire, you're going to pay for the ones that you want to distribute your content. You can do the same thing with influencers. You can do the same thing with blogs, with places that you want to guest blog post on, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, it all starts with research and ends with an analysis around what efforts are going to drive the best results for you based off of the resources and budget that you have at hand.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. And the rest of the question was people reach out to me every day asking for collaboration opportunity, but I struggle to identify potential partners that are reputable and a good fit for my audience. So it sounds like you answer that as well. Let's
I
move
hope so.
to the next question from Lucy here. I work for a content agency. I'd love to know how you would approach incorporating an AI-assisted creation service while not turning people off from your original human services, positioning it to new current client, promoting it, etc.
We have dealt with this over the last 2 years where brands have stated two things. One, that they are interested in AI generated content, but two, they all say that they don't like the end results of AI generated content. And where we've netted out at Foundation is with a simple reality that AI generated content exclusively. If you just go to AI and you create content using just AI, the content is 100% AI, no human touch, is probably going to be mediocre. And because you create a bunch of mediocre pieces of content, the internet, Google, and the rest of the world is going to essentially view that as average content. They're not going to want it. So what we do is we put editors and people on top of that asset to say that AI is a part of the process, but it is not the crux and the key element that makes it happen. So when we develop a piece, we actually have a checklist of nearly 37 things that we do after using AI to help us get ideas, inspiration, direction, clarity, and move effectively. But then we modify it. We modify those pieces to meet our standard of content excellence and the client's level of content excellence that they expect. So we have this process in place where content can be started with AI, but it is finished and completed by humans. And through that process, we are able to establish a quality level that not only adds value to the internet and to our ideal customer, but also ensures that our clients are left with pieces that they will want to distribute and amplify without fear of wondering whether or not someone's going to read that and just say, yeah, I could have got this exact same idea from ChatGPT.
Yeah. 37, you said, right?
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
number. Different step. And I'll just add here, like you can start with video and just add like 37 steps going forward. So
That's it.
it's
That's
okay.
it. 100%. And when you can incorporate the video content into some of these pieces, that's where it gets even further elevated, right? Like the human touch of a video asset being incorporated into a blog post or being incorporated into a landing page just takes something that might be heavily skewed towards AI and just elevates it entirely.
Yeah, elevate the content. I like that. Thank you. Thank you, Ross. The next question that we have here is like, would publishing the same article word for word on your
Yeah.
blog and on LinkedIn as an article, will that hurt your SEO ranking?
Yeah, so it's a great question because there's a lot of chaos happening right now in the SERP. And the SERP means search engine results page. So today, Google is favoring a lot of communities like LinkedIn content, like Reddit content, Quora content, content from these different platforms where it's primarily user generated content. If you can create a blog post and an asset on your own website, and then you reshare it as a full article on something like LinkedIn, will there be risk? 100%. But I do not believe that the risk is that both pieces will not rank. You have an opportunity for both of them to show up for the same query. And when that happens, you go down a path of what we call SERP domination, where multiple assets within the SERP are actually your brand talking about your story. I do encourage people when they are doing this strategy not to just copy and paste, to modify, adjust both the title, the intro, a few key sections to make it slightly different. If you can invest just 10, 20, 30 minutes to differentiating that asset from what's originally on your site, you can unlock an amazing opportunity to show up twice directly in a search for a high value key phrase. Now, here's where it also gets interesting. On LinkedIn, you actually have the ability to source the original source of the content with a canonical link. And from that, it indicates to Google that this is directly coming from an individual source, which is more likely to show your original blog post above that asset that was showed up on LinkedIn.
Yes, thank you for this information. That sounds great. We have another question here coming in. Can you give an example of a successful content repurposing strategy you've used
Yeah.
in your own campaign and the
Yeah.
outcome?
Definitely. So we've done this a lot. And I'll give you an example that's a little bit more close to home where Foundation creates content. We have this part of our section on our site called Foundation Labs, where we have a blog where we create breakdowns on SaaS strategies, marketing strategies, and things like that. I wrote a piece probably 2 years ago about Reddit marketing. And that piece on Reddit marketing didn't just live and die on my blog. We took it and we turned it into a YouTube video. We took it, we turned it into a LinkedIn carousel. We took those LinkedIn carousels, we turned them into an Instagram story. We turned that Instagram story into a carousel that could live on Instagram. And we also turned it into a podcast episode. So we took one individual asset that was created and we repackaged it and repurposed it into a wide range of different things. With all of those things, we happen to link back to the original article. So over time, we were able to capture and continue to drive traffic to that piece that was created months ago to constantly ensure that we were driving more traffic, more eyeballs, and attention to the original piece. And this strategy we've replicated with our partners and with our clients across the board for years. And when we do this, we have consistently seen a 10x return on the amount of content that goes through what we call the distribution engine versus those pieces that essentially collect dust and are just published once and then left to hopefully rank and drive some results. So by adding a layer of distribution where you're turning pieces into new pieces, you're turning them into decks, into videos, into stories, into things that can actually be repurposed and repackaged, you unlock a ridiculous amount of return off of something that you just created once.
Thank you for sharing that insight. We have a next question here. What are the most effective lengths for content marketing video and ad video?
When it comes down to content marketing pure play videos, I think we have to remember that across the board, everyone is saying attention spans are shorter. Attention spans are shorter. But here's the reality, folks. People still sign up and will go to the movies to watch a 3-hour movie. People will still watch a 2-hour movie. People will listen to a podcast that's 2 hours. It's what matters the most for content marketing is not the length. What matters the most is the value that you are delivering. So if you can deliver an immense amount of value and it takes you 30 minutes, congratulations, well done. If it takes you an hour, congratulations, well done. Whatever it takes from a content marketing lens to add so much value that it leads to a business outcome for you, do it. Now, when we're talking about ads, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different because they are essentially being required to be distracted from what their original intent was. When I go to a social media channel and I'm trying to be entertained, I'm not expecting a transaction. So what you have to do with your video ad is capture my attention immediately. So you have 5 seconds upfront to hook me, lure me, and capture my attention. And then once you have that, my hope is that you'll be able to, within the next 30, 40, maybe 60 seconds, lure me to take action. It could be going to a landing page. It could be signing up for a webinar. It could be buying a product. It could be subscribing to a newsletter, whatever it may be. So for content marketing video assets, you can be as long as you want. But when it comes to ads, be short and sweet to capture attention and then lure them in to do something and take action.
Thank you for breaking down those steps. We have a next question here. With such diverse content available and constantly changing trends, how should a small brand pick or a few content strategy for content specifically for budget allocation? I think that's the question all about budget allocation and prioritization.
So there's only two things in life that we can spend. There's money and time. And if you do not have the budget and the money to be able to spend a lot on partners and get extra help to support you with all of these different channels, you can only spend the time of yourself and your team. So you have to do an internal audit and review what your skills capacity is internally. Does your team have the skills to thrive on a channel like TikTok? Does your team know how to use TikTok for content? Or is your team more likely to thrive with written word or with YouTube video or with Vimeo content and creating unique stories? Like, where would your team thrive? Start there. And then once you've identified that this is the channel where we can thrive, maybe it's LinkedIn content, maybe it's social media content, whatever it might be, start to double down. Maybe it's blogging. Maybe your team is great at writing. Okay, double down on that. And then be focused on that channel with that type of content for at least 6 to 8 months and see if you're seeing results. And if you do start to see results, continue down that path. But if you don't see results, then it might be time to try something new. But if you can prove that this channel works for you and you know that it is driving ROI, present that to the team, showcase success, and then request more budget to either bring in more team members or to experiment with an external partner to go on to the next channel where your audience is spending time. So that would be the exercise that I would take. Start with an internal audit of your capabilities and resources. From there, make a decision on ensuring that those resources and the capabilities align with where your audience is, and then allocate that time and energy to be on those channels and be excellent for 6 to 8 months. And if you can prove that that investment worked, then it's time to move on to the next one while maintaining that for the future.
Great. We have a follow-up question actually about budget allocation. So there is one here coming from Brian. Considering budget allocation for small to medium brands, controlling marketing in-house, with such diverse content available and constantly changing trend, how should a small brand pick? Oh, so that's actually the question we went through, I believe, or very
I think it
similar.
is. I think it
Um,
is. Yeah.
Great. So I do believe we have a couple of going on. Is there one missing? I think that's pretty much it. Sounds great.
Awesome.
So as a
Cool.
follow-up here, a couple of things are happening. Obviously, yes, you will receive the recording. Please feel free to go back to it. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time, Ross. I really appreciate that you came in today to talk to Vimeo people and the audience here today. So if there is any other question or not, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much for having me. And I hope folks got a lot of value out of this. If you want to be connected, I'm on all of your favorite platforms and would be happy to connect and stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Ross. Have a great day.
You as well. Take care, everyone.